In that first address to the nation as Prime Minister, Gordon Brown promised a new government with new priorities. Sky's Joey Jones has been finding out what that could mean.
There's something in the air at Westminster, across the country.
I've got about 4 minutes left.
This is what change feels like. Since 1997, we've had the small matter of 2 general elections, and yet only today comes a real sense of a shift in the balance of power. So, after an extremely long chat with the Queen, this is Gordon Brown turning back into Downing Street for the first time as Prime Minister. This is, after all, just a shift that we're seeing in the Labour leadership, but it will have a radical impact on the climate of British politics. New policies will come, and soon. They won't satisfy everyone. Critics of the war in Iraq aren't going anywhere. But Gordon Brown wants to shift the focus onto other issues. Will there be surprises? Personnel and policy?
I think there'll be a lot of surprises, actually. I think people should prepare the way, because I think he will be planning this for a long time, and he is a supreme strategist. So I think we'll see a lot of change underway and an awful lot of really exciting developments.
Keep up the good work.
And those developments will involve a new government, of course. John Cruddas here, who ran a formidable deputy leadership campaign, is one of those hoping to be brought into the fold. Others affect not to be too bothered.
Well, in politics, at this level, you're not masters or mistresses of your own destiny. It's up to other people to make decisions. But certainly what I have at the centre of all my politics is that I'm the MP for Salford.
The funny thing is, for all the media hype surrounding this event, not one of the current generation of big Labour hitters has come down here to speak to journalists. And you know why that is? Well, they're all sitting in their offices, waiting by the phone, hoping Gordon Brown will give them a job. Are you heading back over to Only those stepping back from the fray could afford to look relaxed.
And then, of course, for others, the excitement of waiting in the phone call, or Gordon and choosing his cabinet.
Excitement, that's one way of putting it.
Well, it is a very exciting time for people. There's no greater privilege than being asked to serve your country. And in the next 24, 48 hours, the new Prime Minister, Gordon, will choose the people that he thinks are fit to serve the people of this country. You've got to meet a pretty high standard to do that.
It could be too early for Tory defector Quentin Davies to think about getting a government position, but he's certainly given David Cameron a headache. And the Conservative leader's problems were underlined by a Sky News poll published today, which showed Brown's Labour snapping at his heels.
It's the Conservative Party that's been setting the agenda over this past year on the NHS, fighting to save our hospitals, on the environment, pushing that up the agenda. We're the ones coming up with the exciting and inspiring ideas for the future of our country. That is the role that we will play. I don't believe Gordon Brown can be the change Britain needs. He's the author of so many of our problems. He's been in the heart of the government for the last 10 years. People should have a chance to vote for change, and that should mean in a general election.
Tory and Labour will be watching the front door of Downing Street for comings and goings as the new administration takes shape. It's a long night ahead, and there will be casualties. Patricia Hewitt and Margaret Beckett likely to be among the first. At least, though, after a 2-month hiatus, politics has started in earnest again. Joey Jones, Sky News, Westminster.
Well, one of those widely tipped for promotion as far as the Cabinet is Andy Burnham, and he joins me now. Welcome to you. Hi, indeed. Obviously, we don't know what Gordon Brown's going to announce tomorrow, but we have got some hint that it's going to be pretty much a clean sweep, jobs changing all round. Is that your impression?
Well, clearly there is going to be quite a lot of change within the cabinet, but I think we'll all have to wait and see. The rumour mill's been in or is in overdrive at the moment, but there are very few facts. So I think tomorrow the picture will begin to come clear.
On Sky News, we're reporting that both Margaret Beckett and Patricia Hewitt are leaving the government. Both, well, the 2 most senior women in the government hitherto. Has Gordon Brown got it in for women?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think from Patricia's point of view, obviously I've worked very closely with Patricia at Health. I think when people look back, they'll see she's actually done an extremely good job at Health. The Health Service is in a very, very good state today. Despite all of the flack it gets, it's actually fundamentally in a very strong position.
But the problem, in a sense, is Gordon Brown is alleged to be stomping around saying, how can it be that we've poured all this money into the Health Service and yet the good news message hasn't got out to the voters?
Well, I think that is an issue, isn't it? That there is a bad feeling perhaps around parts of the health service. And I think one of the messages that Gordon has been giving out is 10 years of reform in the NHS has left some staff feeling a little bit disillusioned, a bit disenfranchised in different ways. And I think he's very much signalling that we want to learn from where things may not have been as good as they could have been and make some changes. And I think he'll do that very effectively.
If you had your druthers, would you stay in that area or would you move somewhere else?
Well, it's impossible to say, isn't it? I think the terrible thing, Adam, about these kind of times is we all turn into members of the Yozza Hughes tendency, gives a job, you know, it's a terrible moment, isn't it, where, I mean, I would
well, some people say they don't want a job. Jeffrey Robinson, for example, said, I won't accept a job if it's offered.
I think what we've got today, though people will remember 1997, May the 1st, for the raw excitement of the day, I actually think this day, June the 27th, 2007, will be a more significant day for Labour, because I actually think we've made a bigger achievement today, and that is the smooth handover of power and a strong and united Labour Party. And I would actually say, certainly in my time in Parliament, I think the Labour Party today is more united and more focused on the future than I've seen it in recent times. And I think that is a fundamental triumph for the Labour Party. It's a very historic day for us today.
At the same time, of course, it was always probably going to be a good day for the Labour Party today with Gordon Brown coming through. I mean, we're not certain that there aren't wounds beneath the surface that are going to start to circulate, particularly if, you know, people like Margaret Beckett and who knows who else, Tessa Jowell and others, Hazel Blears, all seem to be Blairites, don't get a decent showing in a cabinet which is, after all, supposed to be a cabinet of all the talents.
Of course, life is not going to be complete plain sailing, but the reason why I just say what I have done is that you say it was always probably going to be like this. Well, I don't think so. I think, looking back to last September, I think if lots of us would have said, we would have found it hard to believe we would have been in this position of strength that we are today. And the Labour Party collectively got its eye back on the ball, came to its senses, and we've made the right judgments.
Senses, in a sense. I mean, you and your friend James Purnell, widely seen as sort of Blairites for Brown or whatever other slogan's been given in. And, you know there were very bitter things thought and said about Gordon Brown and his anxiety to replace Tony Blair. I mean, has he been...
Well, I think... Kenneth Clark on previously, I'm sure he would agree that the process of government is a difficult one. It's a difficult road.
Yeah, but there has been this unique rivalry, hasn't it?
But of course, it exposes differences along the way. I think what we've all done together is we've collectively come to the right judgment about the future. And just look at the support that Gordon received from
what I'm really asking you
is,
do you now think Gordon Brown is a different man, a different quality of leader from the man you thought he was back in September?
No, I think he's absolutely the same person that I knew since I've come into Parliament. I think he has clearly been waiting for this day, but it's now here. I'm absolutely clear that he has a very clear vision for what he wants to do. And differently, I think Tony in many ways had a difficult job at times because the inheritance was difficult. We really just had to bring the NHS back up off its knees. We had to get schools just getting up to a basic standard in parts of the country like mine. There was a real job of work to do to turn around public services. The inheritance for Gordon is one where he can go on, push on, and really make some big changes to this country in terms of fairer distribution of life chances, health and wealth around the country. I think it's a fantastic opportunity for us all collectively, but it's in our own hands. It could, if we don't use this opportunity that the Labour Party now has, then I think we will regret it for many years to come. And I think you can actually see the Tories kind of melting under it as well. I mean, we see the resignation this week. You see the recent polls. People say, well, what is the attack on Cameron? I think it's becoming clear that Cameron's a bit of a con man, and that's showing. And alongside Gordon, he's beginning to wilt.
It's Labour's night tonight. We'll leave it there, Andy Burnham. Thank you very much indeed. Well, coming up next, we'll be looking at Tony Blair's last Prime Minister's questions and some unprecedented scenes in the Commons.
The following takes place between 2:34 p.m. and 3:04 p.m.
Oh, this smells like the rear end of dog.
A bacteriological agent
Get your own yogurt.
has fallen into the wrong hands.
We created the mother of all stink bombs.
I need those schematics now.
I've got a visual.
Toxic.
All units move in.
Jack and Chloe star in a brand new episode.
You're being set up.
The Simpsons, Sunday at 6:30 on Sky One.
You know what bugs the experts at Oral-B? Brushing your teeth still leaves plaque bugs behind. Billions of acid-producing, enamel-eating bugs. So they invented Oral-B Vitality, a rechargeable brush under £25. Vitality is pure plaque-busting genius. It moves almost 8,000 times a minute and could destroy twice as much plaque as a manual. Take that, plaque. Plug in Vitality. Recharge your smile. Oral-B Vitality.
Getting you there. Fortis.
At B&Q, we've cooked up an irresistible offer. Now you can enjoy a mouth-watering third off all select kitchens. So how's that for starters? Get more out of your kitchen at B&Q.
Cadbury Dairy Milk with cream egg bar. It's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other.
I've just come back from holiday and it seems that the bank has charged me for taking my money out abroad.
So, what do you want me to do about it?
Well, I was just wondering, it's my money, why have you charged me?
Well, you know when you were on holiday and you had a meal, did you leave a tip?
Yeah, of course I did.
Oh, well, there you go, you see. That charge is like our tip. And at the end of the year, we had all those tips up. And it pays for the bubbly at the shareholders' meeting. Got to have a bit of bubbly, haven't the shareholders?
But that's my money. This is...
Where are you going?
At Nationwide, we won't charge you for using your cards abroad. Nationwide. No shareholders, just our customers. Proud to be different.
From July 1st, if it's an enclosed public place or workplace, it'll be against the law to smoke. If you do, you could be fined £50 or end up in court. England goes smoke-free, July 1st.
As much as today was about Gordon Brown becoming Prime Minister, it was also about Tony Blair's exit from the political stage in Britain. And before he visited the Queen to resign, he had a final duty, a last appearance at Prime Minister's Questions.
And now to my engagements. This morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in the House, I will have no such further meetings today or any other day.
Before I wish the Prime Minister well for the future, I would like to ask some questions about the floods in Britain and the situation in the Middle East. On the floods, 4 people have lost their lives, thousands of homes have been flooded, and many people are in temporary accommodation. The emergency services are clearly doing an incredible job. Will the government ensure they have all the support they need and that the local authorities under the greatest pressure get all that they require?
In respect of what we now have to do, I mean, we have increased the amount of money for our coastal defence protection to somewhere in the region, I think, of £600 million a year now. We are doing an immense amount for the future to make sure that we have proper provision in place. I'm afraid it is something where we're going to have to spend a lot more money and invest a lot more in the years to come.
On behalf of everyone on these benches, can I congratulate him on his remarkable achievement of being Prime Minister for 10 years? I'm sure that life in the public eye has sometimes been tough on his family. So can I say on behalf of my party that we wish him and his family well, and we wish him every success in whatever he does in the future.
I've always found him most proper, correct and courteous in his dealings with me, and I thank him for that. And although, of course, I cannot wish him well politically, nonetheless, personally, I wish both him and his family very well indeed.
As he leaves office, may I, on behalf of my colleagues, extend our very best wishes to him and his family.
I thank him for that, and let me return the compliment to him, because I think, again, whatever differences we have had politically, I don't think anybody in this House would think that he is a person other than one of generosity of spirit and courtesy. Thank you. I received the following communication that came across by urgent letter yesterday. Details of employee leaving work. Surname Blair, first name T. It said actually Mr., Mrs., Miss or other. This form is important to you. Take good care of it. P45.
Would the Prime Minister say what advice he would give his successor on the relationship between faith and state?
I think I'm really not bothered about that one.
If he and his successor genuinely believe in trusting the people of this country as they claim, will they now honour their commitment at the last general election for a referendum?
I really believe that the guttural roar from his own benches that greeted his statement, if I were the leader of the Conservative Party, I think I would be worried about that. And as for his, I'm afraid we can't agree on the treaty, but as for his good wishes to me, may I say to him, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen and arrivederci.
Tony Blair's final words to Parliament as Prime Minister and as an MP. Well, still with me, three people in their time who've been good parliamentary performers, Kenneth Clarke, Una King and Charles Kennedy. Charles Kennedy, what did you make of that? I happen to know you'd seen that for the first time there.
Yeah, a good way to go out, of course. I mean, you know, remember me this way, I think would be the showbiz interpretation of that. What you didn't show there, which was quite an interesting aside from Tony Blair today, was that he more or less conceded that he wasn't a great parliamentary person. And Gordon Brown is quite instinctively a parliamentary person.
MPs standing up to applaud
I
the
think
Prime
that we will see quite a contrast in Prime Minister's Question Time over the weeks and months to come with Gordon Brown there. I think it will be very interesting.
I think that's the case. I mean, how good do you think Blair was as a parliamentary performer?
Well, when he came, he could be very good, and he's been on brilliant form this week. He was on brilliant form then, he was on brilliant form on Monday. Describing the treaty, he's obviously on a high, almost on the way outside, the emotional high. He's the best political campaigner I've ever seen, but he didn't like Parliament. And it's not often the Prime Minister leaves it and resigns his seat as soon as it's all over. He hardly ever came there. And he has no feel for Parliament, whatever.
Not clubbable, or...?
Oh, he's very clubbable and gregarious, but he had no time for all this arguing and checking. It got in the way. He has run a very personalised presidential government. He ran it just for fun, off the sofa, you know, and trusted his own judgment, and didn't use the cabinet very much, rather irritated by coming to Parliament, actually, although he could handle it and handle the people he faced rather well. And I bet parliamentarians rather resent him for that. He never came. They didn't see him. He wouldn't take part in debates. Otherwise, of course, they all like him. I think people... He's going to go up in the popularity polls now he's gone, because my judgment, I mean, there's no such thing as unanimous opinion in Parliament or amongst the public, but people do think he's a very nice guy. They really like him, and they're going to slightly miss him, but they're very glad he's no longer Prime Minister. They've reached a stage where they wanted him to go away and stop.
So he timed his exit perfectly, really?
No, he timed it about 12 months too late. I mean, it was Iraq that did it, and he was still messing about, trying to claim he'd made the right decision, not realising the reality, you know, 15 months, 18 months after he should have gone. And it required a really botched-up mini coup last September to make him put a date on when he was going to go and just accept that there had to be a line drawn.
Of course, Una King, when you are, as Prime Minister, putting yourself up in Parliament a great deal, you know, you are making yourself more vulnerable. Now, is Gordon Brown really going to fall over himself to have more debates with David Cameron when potentially things could go wrong?
I think he's certainly going to place more emphasis on Parliament. He's going to ensure that more statements are, you know, first given in Parliament and
Tony Blair,
and not in the media. And that's the other point.
Keep on saying he made an awful lot of statements. It was debates he didn't do.
Absolutely. I mean, it is a fact that he was actually there in Parliament a lot. We're arguing over what sort of debates he was in Parliament for, but
it was extended debates and voting he wasn't very good at.
Yeah, absolutely. But what he was brilliant at, and seeing that, you know, reminds you of the fact think that there's virtually no other politician in British politics that could entertain the House of Commons and command it at the same time. There are a lot of MPs that can just entertain the House, and there are a few that can command the House, but there are virtually none that do both simultaneously. Tony Blair was that exception, and I think he will be missed.
And the extraordinary thing, I mean, again, you were both in the House for the departure of Margaret Thatcher. That was a very charged, emotional final question time she did after she was going, but she didn't get a standing ovation in the round at the end of it, as far as I can remember.
But it wasn't that kind of occasion, was it? I mean, this was...
It was a murder, wasn't it?
Exactly. I mean, it was T.S. Eliot. It was not an orchestrated Hollywood occasion.
It was a very dramatic one. It just actually times have changed. I mean, the old conventions have gone. They wouldn't have stood up and applauded because it was against the rules. In fact, there's quite a lot of similarity between Margaret and Tony Blair, which wouldn't offend either of them. Actually, they're both admirers of each other. Margaret went out having been with the knives all in her back. She went out in fantastic style as well. If you remember, she made the speech of her life. And at one point she paused and made the House laugh by saying she was enjoying this when she made some extremely good joke in response to Dennis Skinner making barracking her. So Margaret, there must be something about the last day, the feeling that this is it, you're going. The blighters have finally managed to push you out the door and you're going to show them. And I think on his last day, Blair produced the best of his form. To be fair, Margaret Thatcher, on her last day, absolutely thrilled the House of Commons and produced her best form as well. It's just in those days, you know, the Speaker wouldn't have let us stand up and all start applauding. It's got more casual nowadays.
What about Gordon Brown, Charles Kennedy? Do either Ming Campbell or David Cameron know how to get under his skin?
I don't know the answer to that question at the moment. I think Gordon is a formidable parliamentary performer. Absolutely formidable. And he's... you know, he's got it down to his toes, you know, and therefore expect, you know, a class act. I don't think there'll be any doubt about that whatsoever. But, you know, it's quite interesting because we're talking about Tony Blair here in respect of Prime Minister's Question Time. What Blair also excelled at was, and I know it's a bit of an anorak point that we all know about, but the liaison committee. Which involves...
It's been confirmed that Gordon Brown will continue to do the liaison committee. Yes. He will continue to do monthly news conferences. But that is all from us. My thanks to Kenneth Clarke, Una King and Charles Kennedy.
OK, sir.
When my dad had cancer, this woman helped him through his chemotherapy.
This man helped my baby's son overcome a serious bowel condition.
Without this man, I would have died from a ruptured spleen.
Do something amazing. Give blood.
TravelSupermarket.com compares the rates of over 100,000 hotels, over 50 car hire companies, and millions of flights, comparing quotes from online travel agents, tour operators, and budget and charter airlines.
Cool. We need to fly to Barcelona.
As soon as possible. TravelSupermarket.com compares the market in seconds, making it easy for you to choose the best deal. TravelSupermarket.com, the price comparison site.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are getting ready to land.
Within the miles.
Please return to your seat and make sure your carry-on bags are stored in the overhead
between us. Away with the sea.
Air France. The Magnet half-price sale is now on with a free American cooler or a free flip-down TV and dishwasher. Plus, right now, there's an extra 10% off cabinet sale prices.
Who will you be without that cigarette in your hand? You'll never know until you quit. Lose the smoke. Keep the fire with Nicotinell, a patch that keeps going 24/7 to help give you a smoke-free life. Nicotinell, 24-hour patch.
Any time of the day or night, you might feel like a film. So we've made getting a Sky movie even easier. It's as easy as a click. There's over 300 to choose from. Take your pick. With one tiny click, you can open up a world of fantastic film on your PC at no extra cost. It's amazing what you can fit down a broadband connection. For Sky Movies whenever you like, just go to sky.com/anytime. Pick a flick and click.
Hello there, good evening. Coming up in Sky News at 10, after 10 years of waiting, Gordon Brown becomes Britain's 52nd Prime Minister. We'll get a first look at the stories making the morning's front pages. And at sky.com/news, enter into Gordon's world, an interactive guide to his global challenges.
Missed. As seen by Qatar Airways passengers, your 5-star airline.
Well, did you notice the rain at Westminster? There were so many reporters on the news there today, coming and going, and Wimbledon was on and off. The sun also tried to come out over the flooded areas of northern England, and it looks like these clear skies are now following the showers across to lead us into a rather cold night. If you're sleeping rough or in a tent, it's a cold one out there. The rains are gathering on Thursday, the west of Scotland, the west of Ireland. They'll join up and move in to the flooded region late Thursday and Friday morning. You see the mobile atmosphere from the Atlantic, it's still there in northern latitudes compared to the Mediterranean countries where it's blissfully, happily sunny and warm, as summer should be. Way out at the edge of shot, you're probably just on the edge of your TV, you might not see it. There's a lot of rain developing in the Atlantic. It's going to come. But first of all, there's Friday. Friday morning will be wet over the flooded areas, so renewed rains. I think it won't be a lot of rain because it'll move through. Unfortunately, come Saturday, a band of rain sweeps in from Ireland and the southwest across the flooded regions of England. Could be heavy and persistent, could be trouble.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.